So, folks, it looks like Mark Carney is trying to pull the wool over Canadians' eyes, implement his WEF policies, as well as help Brookfield out get richer. And what I'm talking about is this new housing plan that they've announced. Now, if you pull up the document from the Liberals, this is Mark Carney's Liberal policy for housing. It's a 2-page document here. And at one section here, they talk about creating Build Canada homes. So it says a Mark Carney-led Liberal government will create a new entity called Build Canada Homes, which will get the federal government back in the business of building homes. Now, we've heard this already from Justin Trudeau back in 2017, saying the federal government is going to be getting back into building homes.
Years of hard work have culminated in the National Housing Strategy, a robust, comprehensive, life-changing plan to help Canadians get into homes and stay there. The National Housing Strategy represents a once-in-a-generation $40 billion vision of how we can protect the affordability of the current affordable housing stock in Canada, build 4 times as many units as the past decade, repair 3 times as many units as the past decade, and reduce chronic homelessness by 50%. With this strategy, the federal government is not only back in housing, but we're here to stay for the long term.
Meanwhile,
by getting government back into the business of building affordable homes, and by making the market work better, we will drive a huge increase in housing supply so we can bring costs down for Canadians.
And that was almost 10 years ago, and now they have to get back into the business again. But right down here, it says, Build Canada Homes will also provide $10 billion in low-cost financing and capital to affordable home builders. $4 billion will go towards long-term fixed-rate financing for affordable housing builders. Now, when I saw this number of $10 billion, I recall an article from a few months back in September where from The Logic saying, inside Brookfield's pitch for a $50 billion Maple Fund. Now, it goes on to say Brookfield, we know who was running that for a while, Brookfield would invest billions of Canadian pension fund dollars in housing, physical and digital infrastructure, renewable energy, and privatized public assets. The $50 billion Maple Fund, as Brookfield calls it, would be the largest ever private pool of capital dedicated to investing in the Canadian economy. Now, later on in the article, it states, as The Logic reported last week, Brookfield would contribute $4 billion to the fund and is seeking $36 billion from Canada's largest pension and $10 billion from the federal government. Now, how very interesting that Brookfield was looking for the government to provide them with $10 billion. And right here in this policy of theirs, it says a Mark Carney-led Liberal government will create a new entity, and this new entity will also provide $10 billion. Now, in the article from The Logic, it states that this plan from Brookfield pitch, it remains just a pitch. And you know why? Because they said that the potential for conflict of interest involving Brookfield's chair, who's Mark Carney at the time, who is advising Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as head of the new Liberal Task Force on Economic Growth, could prevent the fund from materializing. But guess what, folks? Mark Carney is no longer the chair of Brookfield, and we still don't know what potential conflict of interest he could have. Now, another part of this article does state that Brookfield's presentation aligns with the Liberal government. It says it outlines hundreds of billions of dollars worth of investment opportunities in Canada that the fund could back across asset classes and sectors. Many of those align with the current federal government's stated priorities, including housing, physical and digital infrastructure, reshoring supply chains, and generating cleaner energy. Well, isn't that just wonderful that Brookfield and the Liberal federal government have such alignment, and the guy who was running Brookfield is now running the Liberal federal government? Like, you can't make this stuff up. But the article does go on to say, they include more than $250 billion investments the pitch materials say would address Canada's chronic undersupplying of housing. Well, I wonder why we're undersupplied when we keep allowing so many immigrants in or foreigners because of the Century Initiative, which he also has Mark Wiseman on his panel for, who's involved with that.
Deputy Prime Minister, documents obtained by Canadian press show your government was warned that housing construction had not kept up with population growth, largely because of Canada's immigration targets. Why did your government not heed that warning and lower immigration levels?
Thank you for the question, Simon. And let me say this. As a country, Canada is probably the country in the world which is the most welcoming of new Canadians, which is the most welcoming of immigrants. And as finance minister, I have to say that is a huge economic strength. It is a real driver of our country's economic growth. And at a time when all of the industrialized countries in the world are facing huge demographic challenges, we are extremely fortunate as a country that we have the social capacity to welcome immigrants. You are quite right that if we want to be a country that welcomes new Canadians, and I strongly believe that's the right thing for all of us, we have to build more homes faster.
This is something that's already been reported on what Brookfield is doing. They just keep buying up all these single homes. This was an article from this year in January. Brookfield buys a U.S. single-family home portfolio for $1 billion. It said Brookfield acquired a controlling stake in single-family landlord Conrex Property Management in 2020, according to Bloomberg, before changing its name to Maymount Homes. Now, it also says here in a joint news release, Maymount Homes, which was Conrex Property Management, Brookfield's single-family home rental business, because this is the whole thing with the WEF. You will own nothing and you will be happy about it. And we'll get to what I'm talking about there in a second. Says it will take on management of Divvy Homes portfolio on an ongoing basis. Now, there was another article written about this from Bloomberg. Brookfield nears a $950 million purchase for Divvy Homes. And this company actually had almost 4,000 single-family home rentals. Now, Brookfield bought these guys after they had just bought the other company, which oversaw 20,000 properties. And you wonder, why do they want to buy all these single-family home properties? Why is Brookfield and all that just buying up all these assets? Is it really because they want to help individuals? Well, no, because in my opinion, Mark Carney has already expressed what he wants to do, because he wrote an op-ed saying we all deserve affordable homes and a stable climate, and that is achievable. Now, in this article, he goes on to talk about the four main things we need to do. And he says, first, we need to build up rather than out. Focusing housing growth in the cities and communities where there is existing infrastructure such as roads, water lines, libraries, and community centers is faster, less costly, and more climate friendly. To enable building in these areas, we need to legalize density. It simply must be easier for home builders to turn a 75-year-old bungalow into a cluster of townhouses or an aging strip mall into a modern and affordable mid-rise apartment complex. Now, he was bragging about how you can go onto any street and see a house that was built 80 years ago.
And if you visit almost any community in Ontario, you will see countless streets of houses that are about 80 years old. And that's because during and just after the Second World War, Canada was facing a massive housing crisis, similar to the one we're now in.
But according to him, these resilient 80-year-old houses should just be torn down and developed into these cluster dense housings projects. And this is the same sort of idea that the WEF has with these 15-minute cities. Because as it goes on to say, to do that, the government should eliminate unit maximums, abolish parking minimums, and allow taller buildings and more density near transit lines. And as they always say, you will own nothing and be happy. he suggests that they need to be more efficient, energy efficient, meaning lower operating cost for tenants, not for owners, but for tenants, people who don't own anything, they simply rent, so that they can have a lower carbon footprint. Because that's all it is. It's this climate agenda, the WEF agenda, and Mark Carney is here to push it as hard as he can. The carbon tax is not actually gone. He has just reduced it to zero right now. People online are saying, thank you, Mark Carney. Thank you, Mark Carney. The same individuals who would be defending the Liberal government for implementing the carbon tax, saying, you guys are killing the planet, it's all going to burn, are now saying, yay, Mark Carney got rid of the carbon tax because he cares about us. Like, individuals just don't know how to think critically anymore, it seems like. But yeah, guys, with all this being said, let me know what you think about all this. Is it a little bit strange that Mark Carney is developing this entity that will provide $10 billion, and Brookfield was actually looking for the federal government to provide $10 billion? Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.